40 years ago, in the gritty heart of Britain's industrial north, the miners' strike erupted like a powder keg, pitting working-class heroes against a steely prime minister hell-bent on reshaping a nation on the brink. Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady, stared down the unions in a battle that wasn't just about coal. It was a war for Britain's soul. As picket lines clashed with police shields, families fractured, and communities crumbled under the weight of economic upheaval. This wasn't mere politics. It was a seismic shift from post-war consensus to ruthless free market fervor. Inflation raged, factories shuttered, and unemployment soared to Depression-era highs, leaving scars that linger today in left-behind towns and skyrocketing inequality. Yet, amid the chaos, Thatcher claimed victory, taming inflation, privatizing industries, and igniting a financial boom in London. But did she halt decades of decline, or sow the seeds of modern woes like Brexit resentment, housing crises, and financial meltdowns? To grasp today's Britain, its divides, its debts, its dreams deferred, we must rewind to the turbulent 1970s and trace the Iron Lady's unyielding path. Buckle up. This is the story of how one woman's revolution redefined a nation, for better or worse. Story. In the waning days of the 1970s, Britain teetered on the edge of collapse. The decade had been a whirlwind of economic turmoil. Runaway inflation gnawed at savings, industrial strikes paralyzed factories, and the once mighty pound sterling plummeted in value. The UK, dubbed the sick man of Europe, lagged behind rivals like Germany and Japan. Productivity stagnated amid poor management, outdated infrastructure, and endless labor disputes. A sense of malaise hung heavy. Something had to give. Enter Margaret Thatcher, the grocer's daughter turned conservative leader who stormed into 10 Downing Street in 1979 with a radical vision. Drawing from free market economists like Milton Friedman, she vowed to dismantle the post-war consensus of state intervention, embracing monetarism, privatization, and a shrunken government role. The era of big unions and nationalized industries was over. Thatcher was determined to unleash enterprise and curb what she saw as the excesses of socialism. Her first battle was inflation, which had spiked to over 20% in the mid-1970s. Thatcher's remedy was brutal: hike interest rates, slash public spending, and tighten the money supply. The economy plunged into recession almost immediately. Businesses folded, factories idled, and unemployment surged from under 1 million to over 3 million by 1983. The highest since the Great Depression. In industrial heartlands like the North, Midlands, and Scotland, the pain was acute. Youth joblessness skyrocketed, fueling riots in cities like Brixton and Toxteth in 1981. Manufacturing output cratered by 20%, wiping out swathes of heavy industry. Critics howled. 364 economists penned a scathing letter to the Times, decrying her policies as theoretically baseless. But Thatcher was unmoved. At the 1980 Conservative Party conference, she delivered her iconic line, "You turn if you want to. The lady's not for turning." She doubled down, raising taxes like VAT and enduring the storm, convinced that short-term agony would yield long-term gain. By the early 1980s, the recession bit deep. Efficient firms perished alongside the inefficient, as state subsidies evaporated. Yet, inflation eventually yielded, dropping from 18% in 1980 to under 5% by 1983. The cost? A transformed Britain, shifting from manufacturing to services and finance. The City of London boomed under deregulation, but the industrial North withered. Unemployment lingered around 3 million throughout the decade, scarring communities and eroding social fabric. Thatcher's next crusade targeted the trade unions, whose power had peaked in the 1970s. Memories of the Winter of Discontent in 1978 to 79, when strikes left rubbish piled in streets and bodies unburied, fueled her resolve. Unions, she argued, held the nation to ransom, stifling productivity with wildcat walkouts and demands. Britain's output growth was among the world's lowest, hampered by disputes and underinvestment. Thatcher struck back with legislation curbing secondary picketing, secret ballots for strikes, and union liability for damages. The 1984-85 miners' strike became the emblematic showdown. Led by Arthur Scargill of the National Union of Mine Workers, tens of thousands downed tools against pit closures. Thatcher, stockpiling coal and deploying police, framed it as a fight against extremism. Violent clashes at Orgreave and elsewhere left deep divisions. After a year, the miners returned defeated, their union shattered. Union membership plummeted from 13 million in 1979 to under 10 million by 1990. Days lost to strikes dropped dramatically, from 29 million in 1979 to under a million by the late 1980s. This victory came at a price. Working-class pride evaporated in deindustrialized towns, replaced by fragmentation, zero-hour contracts, gig work, and eroded community spirit. Income inequality ballooned by 25%, a gap that persists today. The Gini coefficient, measuring disparity, rose sharply, with the top 10% pulling away. A north-south divide widened. London's finance sector flourished while northern ex-mining villages stagnated, breeding resentment that echoed in the 2016 Brexit vote. Thatcher's ideology rewarded the ambitious. Top income tax rates slashed from 83% to 40%, corporation tax from 52% to 35%. VAT doubled to 15%, hitting the poor harder. Benefits lost value relative to wages, and healthcare spending was squeezed, leading to NHS strains. Privatization was Thatcher's crown jewel. From 1980 onward, state assets were sold off. British Telecom, British Gas, British Airways, and more, raising £70 billion, equivalent to over £200 billion today. Critics like Harold Macmillan likened it to selling the family silver. Contrast this with North Sea oil. Both the UK and Norway struck black gold in the 1970s. Norway retained 67% state ownership in Statoil, now Equinor, taxing heavily and funneling proceeds into a sovereign wealth fund now worth $1.4 trillion. Britain privatized fully, using oil revenues for tax cuts rather than infrastructure. Public investment as a GDP share plummeted in the 1980s, fostering short-termism that haunts modern Britain, crumbling roads, outdated railways, and underfunded schools. One privatization hit, right to buy, allowing council tenants to purchase homes at discounts. Over 1.5 million did so, boosting homeownership from 55% to 67% by 1990. It empowered working families, creating a property-owning democracy. But flaws emerged. Proceeds weren't reinvested in new social housing. Stock dwindled from 6.5 million units in 1979 to under 4 million by 2000. Private rents soared, and supply lagged demand. Today, house prices-to-income ratios rival Victorian levels. Young buyers need 19 years to save deposits. Unaffordability fuels intergenerational tension, a direct Thatcher legacy. By mid-decade, recovery beckoned. Post-recession, GDP grew robustly, averaging 3.5% annually from 1983 to 1989. The Southeast boomed. House prices tripled, consumer spending surged. Financial deregulation's Big Bang in 1986 liberalized the city, attracting global capital. Chancellor Nigel Lawson hailed an economic miracle, privatization, tax cuts, and supply-side reforms turning Britain around. Foreign investment flowed. Japanese car plants like Nissan in Sunderland revitalized the Northeast. Exports rose, and the UK lured multinationals with low taxes. Yet, the miracle was illusory. Growth rates mirrored the 1970s average. The boom masked imbalances. Inflation crept back to 10% by 1990, private debt ballooned, and the current account deficit widened. The UK lived beyond its means, fueled by credit and oil windfalls. Lawson's tax cuts overheated the economy, leading to a 1990-92 recession. Housing crash, negative equity for 1 million homeowners, and unemployment back to 3 million. Inflation peaked highest among developed nations, self-inflicted after early 80s sacrifices. This fiasco prompted 1997's Bank of England independence, a lasting reform. The financial sector's ascent was double-edged. It generated tax revenue, today 10% of GDP, but amplified inequality. London thrived as a global hub, but regions lagged. Outside the capital, UK productivity rivals poorer European areas. Deregulation sowed 2008's crisis seeds. Ex-building societies like Northern Rock chased risky loans, collapsing without bailouts. Moral hazard reigned. Private gains, public pains. Thatcher's European record mixed successes. She secured a hefty EU rebate in 1984, offsetting common agricultural policy costs. Championing the single market in 1986 reduced trade barriers, boosting GDP by 2 to 6% annually per studies. Yet, her Euroscepticism proved prescient. The 1992 ERM exit, Black Wednesday, avoided deeper woes, though at sterling's cost. Anecdotes humanized the era. In Cowley, Oxford, near the former British Leland plant, now BMW Mini, locals recall 1970s strikes disrupting lives. One neighbor, a factory veteran, praised Thatcher for curbing union overreach, allowing steady work. Such stories explain her working-class appeal, despite policies hitting them hardest. Overall, Thatcher's legacy is nuanced. Successes: taming 1970s inflation, albeit painfully, attracting investment, and fostering enterprise. Tax cuts from punitive levels enhanced competitiveness. Union reforms curbed unsustainable strikes. Privatization energized some sectors, like telecoms. But mixed bags abound. Monetarism's rigidity amplified unemployment. Deindustrialization lacked transition support, devastating regions. Privatization's ideology ignored hybrids, like Norway's oil model, squandering opportunities. Inequalities rise, housing shortages, and financial instability endure. In hindsight, Thatcher halted some decline but planted today's seeds. Polarized society, regional divides, short-termism. Britain evolved, from industrial powerhouse to service economy, but at what cost? As we navigate post-Brexit challenges, her revolution reminds us. Change demands balance, empathy, and foresight. The Iron Lady's forge shaped modern Britain, but its flaws still temper the steel.